Okay, we're gonna. Hello, we are live.
Awesome.
Hello, good evening, relatives. Welcome to Indigenous Storytime. We are so excited and so honored that we have an amazing person joining us tonight, Rachel Eastman. She is already at the age of 18 an award-winning author, and she has been nationally recognized for her talents and gifts as a writer. So we're going to talk to Rachel just a little bit briefly here before she reads an excerpt of a story that I'm going to let her talk about. But I also wanted to introduce a good friend of mine, my dear Mashke Elizabeth Joamo James. She is actually the friend who connected Rachel with Indigenous Storytime and has known Rachel for some time through her work in Indian education in Flandreau, South Dakota. So Elizabeth, do you want to offer a couple of words of introduction?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, first of all, Indigenous Storytime, for having me here and for the work that you do, continuing to ensure that Indigenous stories are told and are preserved. But my name is Elizabeth Joamo James. I'm originally from Italy, but I've been living and working here in the United States since 2008. And through my work as a Native American education coordinator in Flandreau, I was so honored to meet Rachel. So thank you so much, Rachel, for having me here tonight, helping to interview you after we hear your story. Rachel and I enjoyed some trips of visiting colleges and doing some work as she was on one of the members of the Advisory Youth Council that the Flanders and TCU Tribe Education Department had established. So just thank you again for having me here. I'm super excited.
Okay, so Rachel, would you like to introduce yourself to our viewers here? And then we're going to go ahead and just dive into some conversation about your work.
Okay. All right. Hello. I am so honored to be here with streaming with Indigenous Storytime. My name is Rachel Eastman. I am a direct descendant of Chief Little Crow and a descendant of Dr. Charles A. Eastman. I love to write. I've been writing since as long as I could remember. And I'm so glad that in these past few years I have been getting recognized for my work. It truly means a lot to me, and I think I've grown so much as a person since since I ever started writing professionally, not professionally, but Scholastic has brought me so far, and I can't wait to get further with Indigenous Storytime. So thank you so much for allowing me to speak here. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, so let's go ahead and just get started and just jump into some of the questions. So this story is an excerpt from one of your books that's about to be published, and it really offers hope to young people who are dealing with issues like mental health and trauma, family problems, just the overall struggles of being a teenager. If there's any other teens that are tuning in tonight or watching this video later, what is something that you really wish that for them to get out of your story?
I do want other teenagers to realize that it might seem like these times are confusing, hard. You feel like you'll never escape, but it will get better. It just comes with time, and I just want everyone to remember that even if you're just a child or you're a young adult or middle age, even the elderly, it will get better. It just takes time.
That's awesome. Thank you, Rachel. I think that's such an important reminder that I relate to as well as an older person. The next question, the main character seems to experience some conflicting feelings about the person he is becoming. Tell us more about that. Where is he coming from?
The main character, he is reflecting on his past self, and he didn't think he'd make it that far in life. And he's kind of just confused where life takes him next, and he wants to be in the right direction, and he feels like he's going in the right direction, but he also feels conflicted because he's still confused, but he does have hope for himself, but there's also that doubt that comes with like everybody's life, where people, it's like normal human human basic things where we kind of just doubt ourselves always, but not all the time. But yeah, he's just overcoming that, and he's learning how to grow as a person and get over that doubt. So, but he's still learning.
I think that's so important, Rachel, because oftentimes we want to, we're just hoping that we're on the right track. So I think it's so important what you just said, as far as there's some doubt, but it's a good thing that there's doubt. It's a good reminder to hear that. So next, are you comfortable sharing what or who the story is about?
The story is about it's about myself, my friends, and what we've all gone through, my relatives, my ancestors, and what feelings they've probably went through in their past life. That I know plenty of us have gone through doubt and confusing times, and like times where we think we would like never survive, but we all made it through.
I think you bring up a really good point there, Rachel, when you said, you're talking about issues that were relevant, I think, even to our ancestors. And I think that brings up a really important discussion about what historical trauma looks like. So what do you think is, people talk about historical trauma all the time, right? But I think that sometimes we lose sight of the historical resilience. So if we have that trauma, we have the resilience too. What are some of the things in your life as a young person that help you build and sustain your resiliency?
I definitely rely on my uncle. I call him my father now. He's taught me so much, and he taught me how to be resilient and to never give up. Like he's like saved me through so many hard times. But yeah, I really look up to him, and then like if I have any problems, I will go directly to him because I trust everything he says. He's literally my lifesaver. But it's my dad, my uncle, Frank, Francis. He's just my everything.
And I know your uncle, and he's amazing, and he has an amazing business. I'm just going to put it out there. If you're in Flanger, check it out. But you also mentioned, and I'm so fortunate to know the group of friends that you're referring to. You mentioned those friends, and I think those are so amazing. Do you want to just share more about those positive friendships and how they help you be the person that you are today?
Yeah, I think I've gone through like so many friends, like some failed, some are that are like, I've been friends with this one person. She's amazing since like at least like first or second grade, and like she's my rock. I love her almost as much as I love Frank. But yeah, she's my best friend. She will get me through anything. And I know we've been through similar things with like our parents. We will like literally like talk in depth about how our past has shaped us and how we think we can overcome that trauma. And then with my other friends that I'm not friends with anymore, they've taught me like important things, like how to be kind and how to be nicer to people. And yeah, I think even with the shorter friendships and like the lifelong, you can learn a lot.
Absolutely.
That says almost a lot. It reminds me a lot of, that Dakota, that way of being, and our Indigenous virtues. What would you say are your core virtues or values that really drive and influence you?
It's definitely my family and my history. I have pictures of my ancestors surrounding me right now. I have my grandfather, my great grandfather, and like all the way down to Little Crow. And I have my grandparents on my grandmother's side. And I think they really like help me. They keep me on my track in the in the right path of life. I am moving to New York City in like 4 months, and I know that with Dr. Charles Eastman, he went east too, and I'm taking that and I'm thinking I can be like him. We're both writers. I just have to stay on track and think of my relatives because I know they're watching me, and I know I'm taking them with me.
Wow, that's so powerful. A question just popped in my mind. You mentioned Charles Eastman being a writer and you being a writer too. Just wondering, did that have anything to deal with your initial interest in getting into writing at all?
I have to say no. I with my biological dad, I was never really in touch with that side. And I'm just learning more about it, especially this year. I've been meeting more of my relatives from my father's side, and I've learned so much about us on the Eastmans. I usually say I'm just a Wakeman with like a Eastman last name because I know everything about the Wakemans, but like my dad is just I really don't know anything. But after learning that he was a writer and he also went out east, that really inspired me to learn more about my family. So
Yeah,
And you're learning so much more about your family every day. So I just have to put this shout out there. We found out that Rachel is actually my takoja, my granddaughter, because I am also a Wakeman. So we're learning about our family every day. I'm totally claiming that. But I just want to kind of shift the conversation a little bit because, I was a former English teacher. And so I would really like to hear a little bit more about, what is your writing process? So how do you think of these ideas? I mean, there are obviously issues that you've experienced or your friends have, but how do you take that from the idea or concept and translate it into the written word?
all right, so it's like I'm weird, so I do take my day-to-day things and I put it into consideration and I think about it I'm an overthinker, but and I also love music, and so I do take the both and I kind of like mush them together. So if I find a song that really relates to me, I can put two and two together and make a whole story out of it. Like with the Daniel project, I used to be obsessed with musicals when I was writing it, and there's like this one musical that really spoke to me, both with like the letters inside that novel and then the letters inside that musical. And I was really inspired and I created my own version from real life and the musical setting. So I kind of use songs and real life experiences to guide me.
I love that.
And you mentioned I hope I remember the Daniels project or the Danielson project?
The Daniel project.
The Daniel project. Sorry about that. I was just wondering, because tonight's story is a different piece. Do you want to share a little bit about the Daniel project with whoever is tuning in?
Oh yeah, okay. I wrote the Daniel project when I was just 15, and it honestly surprised me. I reached around like 115 pages with this novel, and I was just a little tiny baby. But it was about a boy who sadly committed suicide, and his old best friend, she found the letters, and his aunt started to give him essentially the drafts of them, or what she would consider his hidden feelings and his deepest secrets. And so while she continued to read those, she started to uncover more about her best friend. And then while learning more about him and others, and yeah, at the end, they all figure it out and they start the Daniel Project in memory of him.
Wow, that's powerful. And, you are bringing up a very sensitive topic, but so important to talk about. Do you want to share more about what brought you to write that piece and maybe even submit it to Scholastic?
Yeah, I think with like suicide, it's very touching. It's really sad too. But during that time, I knew like a whole bunch of people who are struggling, and I just wanted to write it like a little like message for them to tell them that it's going to be better and like what could happen if they went through with their plan. So I think it was like a little. I have no idea how to describe it, but to help others, and that really inspired me to submit it to Scholastic.
Yeah, that sounds very healing. Thank you for sharing that.
Is there any one person, I think I guess maybe your time to shout out, who supports your work and maybe encourages you to continue with your writing and submitting to these national awards?
I have to say, I have like three of them. So Elizabetta is one. My teacher, Jamie Frisley, she's been so nice to me. She was the original one to tell me to do it. And like I was too nice to say no. So I wrote a whole novel just for her. But yeah, so I could submit it so I wouldn't have to disappoint her. And then Frank, my dad, my uncle, he also inspired me. Like he knew I could do it. And with all their support, I was just able to push through, get over my lack of motivation, and write just story after story.
That's awesome. All right. Well, without further ado, I think I'm going to turn everything over to you, Rachel. For anyone who is tuning in, we will have a brief Q&A after the session. So please feel free to leave your questions in the comments. Elizabeth and I will do our best to moderate them. Rachel, do you have anything to say specifically on things that you will answer and you will not?
I think I'm pretty open to any question. Just kind of steer clear of the weird ones, but like I'm okay with that.
We got you on that. We got you that, my girl. So, all right. Well, we're going to go ahead and hear an excerpt from your new story. And I'm going to spotlight you now.
Alrighty, thank you. I will start right now. All right, the piece is called Stranger Teenager. And here it is. Where you been lately? I asked the person in the mirror, the person I no longer was. But I wish I was again. I miss being that teenager. I miss being the teen who locked themselves in their room and stay up all night on the internet. That person isn't me anymore, and I hate it. My hand reaches for the one in the mirror. A warmness fills my soul, feeling my own touch that I was deprived for years. Although I'm 18 now, I see the stupid 14-year-old in the mirror, the one with long, messy hair, a me that was embarrassed for years until this point. I just want to hug that kid. I want to tell him that it's okay. We made it to 18. Since I was 9, I was never sure if we'd make it to 18. I thought I'd be dead by now in the most non-depressive way. My dad said I wouldn't make it. My sister thought I wouldn't make it. I never thought I'd make it this far in school without dropping out. My brother and sister were all out of the house doing drugs and causing trouble by my age. But here I am looking at the 14-year-old I miss. I wish I stayed that way. I wish I never went out that one evening with those boys on October 14th. I could see the innocent in my own eyes, the eyes that were protected by thick framed glasses. That kid didn't have a clue that he was going to buy himself contacts the following year. The kid never responds, but I don't mind. You, I chuckled, pointing at myself. You still wasting time? I subtly poke fun at myself, remembering nights online. I lick my lips, thinking about the time we stayed up until 3 a.m., talking to a girl who was 14,000 miles away, and a whole hour ahead. I miss that feeling of being secure with someone. I never got to have that trust again with another person. But maybe I will one day. Even now, I miss that girl. She was short and 5 months younger than us. Danla was the name we gave ourselves. In retrospect, I was probably obsessed with her, but I never cared. She was my first true friend. The me in the mirror touched his hair, twirling it in his fingers. I smirked, setting my arm on the mirror. Why are you acting like a stranger? I'm you. We're the same, I tell myself, trying to convince myself to talk. Maybe he asked me questions whether Kaylin and I lasted forever. Maybe he's just in disbelief that we're alive. Once I turned 15, things just went wild. I didn't expect to live that long, and life was confusing because I was sure I'd be dead. I never planned that far ahead. I turned into my siblings. I became wild, staying out late, and hanging with people I knew I shouldn't. They felt like friends, but they were never there. The kid in the mirror had no clue what was going to happen. Suddenly, I spoke. I never thought I'd see us get that far along. I turned my head to look at myself. I raised my eyebrow and nodded with a smug smile. I giggle, noticing my own purple and black braces. I see the little wristbands almost embedded in his wrist and the holes on the wrist of the sweatshirt. If I look above and at an angle, I will see the pants I'd wear for days straight because I like the fit of them. The gross kid I used to be. The kid I missed. I put my arm down from the mirror and nodded, setting my hands on my hips. I miss seeing you. I miss being you, I admit. My eyes wander to the bathroom floor. Come on now, I missed you. Stop acting like a stupid stranger and start talking to me. Ask me questions. Tell me what you miss. Just tell me everything, I snap happily. My hands turn into fists and I smile. The kid in the mirror is concerned and confused. I know what he's feeling. He doesn't feel special and worth it. He's confused. He feels hated by society. I know that we still feel like we don't belong in anything, but I know now that it's okay. He doesn't. Something tells me that he isn't going to talk about anything with me. I look away from myself, but I persist. Look, me, everything will be all right. You make it to 15, 16, 17, and even 18. In 2 more years, the thing you've been struggling with since 9 will go away. You will make it 1 year without self-harm. You're going to get so tired, but in the best way for you. You will shut everyone out and focus on yourself. We're finally going to love ourselves for who we are. You are finally not going to care about what others think. You're going to become a rude person, but in the best way. You're no longer going to be the person you think you're forever going to be. Spoiler, you fail, but you try again and again. You try without even realizing it, and I'm just so proud of you. I say, my mouth opens and it won't close. I'm speechless. The me in the mirror freezes. I watch myself prick at my own fingertips, a habit I started because of braces. He doesn't know what to do, and it isn't easy to make that kid cry. But I am. I've become a crying fool over the years. I sense that I'm making myself uncomfortable. I hated crying in public, and I hated being around other crying people. Of course, the kid in the mirror was extremely uncomfortable. The only thing we could say to comfort crying people was just, oh, I'm sorry. We were never good with anything social. The kid I used to be was so scared of everything and hid in his room, relying on strangers online for help and happiness. I can't change anything that happened in the past, and neither can the kid in the mirror. Just talking to each other made everything better. It made me happy. How do you feel right now? I asked myself. I'm still avoiding eye contact. The me in the mirror sighs and shrugs. Plugging my hoodie up. I'm okay. You're not okay, I tell myself. I shrug too. Everything is confusing. You don't feel like you fit now. You can calm down. Just don't worry right now. I know it's hard to believe, but you're not a monster. No one is shutting you out. Even mom and dad love you, even though it feels impossible. I don't know if you're in the middle of a friend drama, but of course, your friends love you. What are you even thinking about? I keep staring at the ground. I can't see what he's looking beneath him. I don't know if he's in the bathroom or somewhere else. I sigh and cross my arms. I don't know. Dad took away therapy. I screamed at mom and I yelled at my friends. My mom's mad at me for my grade in math. My cousin is angry because I won't leave my friends. Everything is just a difficult choice, I explained to myself. I sigh, remembering that point in my life. I don't want to spoil it for myself, but I do choose my cousin over my friends. I don't stop screaming at my mom until I'm 16. I never get better in math, but I learned to cheat. I go back to therapy for 9 months before getting sent to a mental ward and being prescribed antidepressants. I get a new counselor and we start working on trauma. I stare at myself and we both feel things that are going to get better with time. Something I never understood at 14. I'm going to spoil one thing for you. You're going to be living this season of screaming and being confused for a while. Just know that we make it at 18 and we graduate. Just remember the things will get better with time. You're going to do things you don't expect, but you're learning. Keep learning, kid. I'll see you around. I tell myself before the mirror blurs and I just see myself. Me today. The me with healthy hair that recovered from many bleaches and hair dyes. I see the face that has scars from picking at zits from nervousness. The bags under my eyes still welcome me. I glance over to my room, the one that's above my old one. The purple room downstairs turned gray, and the one upstairs stayed dark red. There's a new light on top. The room is no longer going to be mine soon after I move. Soon enough, the things I should have talked about pop into my head. I should have told myself that our parents get internet again, and that we do dishes on a daily now. Staring into my room, I know that I'll figure it out eventually. I still should have told him it wasn't too late to change his haircut. That rat's nest bothered me. That's the only thing I regret now. No. I should have told him we got a dog. Oh well. And that's the end of that expert. So.
We're so proud of you. That was amazing.
Thank you.
We do have a question in the comments. So I'm going to go ahead and ask this question. And it's, who is your favorite author?
Who is my favorite author? I have to say, I can't say her last name, but her name is Becky Albertalde. But she wrote Simon versus the Homo sapiens Agenda, or which got turned into the movie Love, Simon. And she also wrote Leah on the Offbeat. And I love her work so much. She's really inspired me.
I'm not familiar with her. Do you think that your style is similar to hers at all? I mean, I think the content's a little bit different, but.
Yeah, I gotta say a little bit, but she has like a little bit more simple style. Like she has like emails and like text messages. I haven't done that style yet, or I haven't like experimented with it.
Awesome. And then I have a question too. So again, if you're tuning in and if you have questions for Rachel, please feel free. But you had talked about a piece in this and it just kind of really made me think about all of the pressures that this young person has. You know, pressures from the family, from the mom, the dad, the friends, all of these things. Given that I think most young people have a lot of those, what would you say to the adults in the world?
I have to say, like, I know it's a confusing time raising teenagers too, but I just gotta say, like, sometimes adults have to calm down just a little bit, but they have rights too. Like, they know what they're trying to put out, and like sometimes adults don't know how to say it because there's that generational gap between teenagers and older people. But yeah.
Wow. Absolutely phenomenal, Rachel. I'm going to remember that. I'm not seeing any other questions at this time. Do you have any parting questions, Elizabeth? Oh, I guess there is another question. I'm sorry, I didn't make that. Oh, have you always liked writing, or is this something that developed more as a teenager? Thanks for that question.
I think I've always liked writing. I know when I was like really little, I loved reading. Like our school did like little, I forgot what it was called, but it was little like, we used to have to do quizzes to earn points. Then at the end of the year, we would add them all up and someone would like get a huge prize. I think I won like a duffel bag or something in like 4th or 5th grade. But after like, when I was like 9, I was on the internet. I think I might have been like too young to be online. But I discovered Justin Bieber fan fiction. And I really enjoyed that. And I really wanted to write my own. So at 9, I started writing fan fiction. And then throughout the years, it slowly got better. And then I think when I was like 14, I finally started doing like fiction, like no Justin Bieber, no bands or anything. And my first like official one was the Daniel Project, which Jamie Frisley inspired me to write for Scholastic. Mm-hmm.
You know, I've been thinking about something that you just said, what Tamara just asked you before this last question. You know, you mentioned the generational gap, and you're so right. I mean, I can relate to a lot of what you described as a teen. And oftentimes I tell myself, oh, I wish I knew what I know now. And maybe it's just a matter of time. But I wonder your thoughts about if you could communicate to, you know, younger people going through that time, what do you think might help to get them to not having to go through making those mistakes or going through those times in order to learn those lessons that you've learned and that you shared through the story? Does the question make sense?
Kind of, yeah. I have to say, like, for the younger generation, I have to say, just be as understanding as you can be. I know from my experience, I was really stubborn. Like, I think it's with like every teenager, we're just stubborn. It's just how we are. It doesn't matter what generation you're from. you know you've been stubborn at least one point. But besides being stubborn, you got to like learn how to communicate and appreciate what your parents or your guardian has done for you from the point, like whatever point you're at. Like I saw this one thing where it's like, what was your allowance as a teen? And the reply was, I was allowed to live at my parents' house. Like that's how I take it. But I know when I was like 14, I hated everything. I hated doing dishes. I hated chores, and I just hated like being at home and being forced to do stuff. And I think that's just a universal thing.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
We have another question.
Oh, great.
So what are you going to be doing in New York, and how long will you be there?
I plan on attending Hunter College. It's part of this uni system in New York City. And they have like colleges all throughout the city, and there's like high schools too. But while I'm there, I do plan on studying English, and I am still debating if I want to major in secondary education, so like teaching high schoolers. But I'm still thinking about that. What I would like to do is just be an author as much as I could be. So if I do take that education route, I will be an author on the sideline. And then my goal is to be retired as young as I can, so I can pursue my writing full time. But for as long as I'm going to be in New York City, I feel as long as I'm attending college, I know after college I would like to live there too, but that's not set. I know I want to travel for a while. But do you like, what are those called, nomads? Or
yeah,
I think that's what they're called. But like be like that, and then I think I will stay there in New York throughout the whole entire state or around the East region for as long as I'm like young. And then maybe when I'm like around 60, 70, I might come back to Flandreau. But I would rather just stay on the East Coast.
Absolutely. Home will always be here. You go do your thing. All right. Well, it is 6:30. So I just want to say again, Rachel, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. You are such an inspiration, not only to the people that are around you, but now to the people who were introduced to you. We wish you the best of luck. Everybody be on the lookout for Stranger Teenager that is going to be published by Scholastic in the very near future.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Rachel. It was such an honor to share this evening with you, and I could talk with you forever.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for tuning into Indigenous Storytime. Please don't miss out on our next reading at Wednesday at 4:30. And until then, Doksha Ake, we'll see you again.
Thank you, Indigenous Storytime.
Yeah, thank you.